Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. Um, we're going to look at two different documents for the two remaining core projects that we have to do in the course this week. I'm going to introduce both of them to you at the same time because you'll be doing research this week for the core project 4, which is the persuasive problem solution essay, and you will begin working on your evaluative annotated works cited document, which is going to list those sources that you find for your core project 4. So core project 3 and core project 4 are directly interrelated to each other. So core project 4, last week I asked you to look at that little video where Malala introduced it, and for the 16 global goals that you can choose from the United Nations. And then you were to do a little journal for that, where you chose one of those 16 goals and put some information in there about why it is a significant problem and what some solutions are for the problem. And hence, Core Project 4, the essay is a problem solution essay with the emphasis on the solution. We're going to give some background on the problem, yes, but we're going to spend most of the essay talking about solutions that can work. And the persuasive part comes in when you'll be using persuasive language in order to persuade your readers that these are good solutions for this problem. So you might have chosen no hunger, you might have chosen a good health for everyone. Whichever one you chose, your research this week will be to find out what you can find out to go in the research paper. So you'll be researching and you'll be taking notes and getting ready to write your essay. So you want to view that document, and that's on here this week. You want to view this instructional outline that goes with Core Project 4. I want you to view the document for the Core Project 3 Evaluative Annotated Works Cited, and view the slideshow presentation for the Evaluative Works Cited document that you'll be preparing. You're going to continue the Evaluative Annotated Works Cited asks for 4 sources. Your research paper, Core Project 4, asks for 5 to 6 sources, but all you have to have for the annotated works cited document is just 4 sources. So this week you need to find your 4 sources. In order to know what you need to research for, I have put a document on here called the Core Project 4 Problem Solution Instructional Outline. And that's going to tell you what you need to be gathering, the information you need to be researching and gathering for Core Project 4. Core Project 4 is due July 26th, which is the last Sunday in our summer course. And then the document, the Core Project 3 Evaluative Annotated Works Cited, will be due before midnight on July 5th. So you're going to be working on the same thing, even though it's going to end up in 2 different projects, 2 different documents. And I hope you'll won't get confused about this, but listen carefully and look at these documents, and I'll explain it as we go along. All right, first of all, the Core Project 4 document that is on the Moodle page. I've just opened it. The assignment snapshot for this, it's a persuasive problem solution essay. You're going to have 5 to 6 primary or secondary sources. A primary source would be like as you did your rhetorical analysis, it was the article that you were writing about. That would be a primary source. In this case, any kind of research that you find that is actually published by the person doing the research, that is a primary source. A secondary source is anything written about someone else's research, someone else's article. So anything that you find for this research paper will probably more than likely end up being a secondary source, but you have to have 5 to 6 sources for this. The length of this essay is going to be 5+ pages. Don't worry about that. I'm going to tell you exactly what needs to go in the research paper, and by the time we get through all of it, you will see that it will take 5 to 6 pages for you to get all that information in there. I have put the link in here again, the Global Goals website, the same one that I shared on the Moodle page last week for you to do your journal, is also here. And so you will, in case you need to see it again, in fact, I put it in here several times. All of these blue things that say Global Goals website are live links to that page. One of the things that you're going to need to do research on will probably come from that source. And so that's one of your 4 sources you'll need for your evaluative annotated works cited document. And then you just need to find 3 more for that. For your research paper, that will be one of your sources for your research paper. And then you'll need to find 4 to 5 more sources in addition to that one. So I've given you your first source, and so I expect you'll do quite a bit of research there. One of the things that you're going to need to put into the research paper is going to be background information, telling your reader what kind of problem this is, the extent, the magnitude of the problem. Why did the United Nations select this as something worthy of setting these goals to help alleviate that problem? And so the goal itself is in order to solve the problem. So you'll be getting information from that page for that. I also told you last week, when you go to the Global Goals website page, then scroll down until you find those tabs that gives the solutions or the targets, the ones that the United Nations has set up to help solve the problem and help meet the goal. What the bulk of the research paper is going to be about is those 3 solutions that I asked you to put in your journal. You're going to find information where those kinds of things are being done already in the world, either sponsored by the United Nations or some other organization, how well they're working, and you will have a body paragraph for each one of those goals. And then there's other information that you'll need to find for your research paper, considering people who might not think it's a very significant problem, or maybe find something against one of the solutions, and we'll talk about how to answer those people. But for now, be looking for information that you can use to show where those solutions are being actually utilized in the world. I have put some information in this document that will help you with your research. One of the places that you can use for research, and it is a great source, is NC Live. So in the document itself, here's a link to NC Live. There's some information here about how to use NC Live. There is an NC Live tutorial that you can look at if you've never used NC Live before, and there's a live link to it right here, to that tutorial. But you want to, if you use, when you're researching, language from those targets that from the UN Global Goals page, that will help you so much in finding information for your research paper. So use language with keywords from those targets. Also, there is this website, globalissues.org, has current news stories about global issues, and so you may, here's a live link to that, you may find information there. Sometimes my students say they find really good information there. Sometimes they say, I couldn't find anything. I got all my stuff from NC Live. And NC Live, by the way, is a database of a collection of a lot of different sources. So I highly encourage you to use NC Live in doing your research. They have newspapers, magazines, journals, a lot of different information that you can find, but the key point is going to be using those keywords from the targets. That's going to help you so much when you do that. Some other places that you might, I've got down here at the end, near the end of the document, some places that, scroll back to it, here it is, additional suggested sources. Again, here's the link to the Global Goals website. I try to put that in there so you wouldn't have to hunt for it every time. Here's that globalissues.org, and these are links to these online news sources: Newsweek, the Christian Science Monitor, ABC News, CBS News, MSNBC News, CNN News, C-SPAN, PBS, Time, U.S. News and World Report, and then there's a link to NC Live again there. Any source that ends with a .org or a .gov, which means a government website, would probably have information that would be okay for this research paper. But speaking of sources that are okay, I'm going to go back to the Moodle page for just a minute here. I have put some information on here about something called, oddly enough, a CRAP worksheet. And I'll tell you in just a minute when it pulls up what the CRAAP stands for. When it pulls up, there it goes. Okay, so we want to have reliable sources that we can use for this research paper. One thing that is really important, do not use Wikipedia as a source. It's an okay starting point, but most colleges will not accept will not accept Wikipedia as a source because it can be updated by anybody. Things can be put on there by anybody, and it's just not considered to be a reliable source. Things that are on Wikipedia that are well documented and list the sources that they got the information from might be a good place for you to actually look at some of those sources that are used for those for your source. But here's how we evaluate if a source is a good enough source to use for your annotated bibliography or works cited page. Bibliography and works cited um, mean the same thing for this document. So if I say them one or the other, I'm talking about the same thing. But here's what the first, or what the C stands for, currency. You want to get something that is up to date, something that's information. You don't want to get statistics and things like that from something that was 10 or 15 years ago. We want to know up to date information. So is it current? R is for relevance. Of course, if it doesn't relate to your topic, to one of the parts of the paper that you're putting together, you're getting your information for, then that's not one that you want to put in your bibliography, and it's not one, or annotated works cited, and it's not one that you want to use for your research paper. So skip over that one, find one that's relevant. The authority, the first A stands for the authority. Who has published this information? How do we know that the person that has published, or the organization that has published this, is a reliable source, somebody that we can trust to put information in for a college research paper? The second A stands for accuracy. If you see a source and it is full of typographical errors and there's information in there that you can just plain old see that it is wrong information, then you want to leave that source and go on and find something else. But you also want to know, is the information that there on that website, the source that you're going to use, is it supported by evidence? How do you know if it is accurate? Well, they've done their research and they've found information to back it up. So you can check out other sources to make sure that it's also accurate. And then the P stands for purpose. What is the purpose of the information? Sometimes we find things on the internet that are, the purpose is to convince you of a very one-sided opinion of something. Or sometimes it's the purpose is to sell you something. One of the things that you want to be sure of, that it is not highly biased. In other words, it only gives one side of things and doesn't even consider alternatives. And a lot of times they say, if you want to see if something is reliable, something that you can actually use for a college research paper, follow the money, the authors, the sponsors of the website. Do they have a specific agenda that they're trying to carry out? So you want to find something that is informative, fact, and it can be educated opinion, but you want to make sure it's not propaganda, which is just presenting one side of things. And you want to make sure that there are no political, ideological, religious, personal biases on the information that you find. So if you can find a source that meets this CRAP test, it is current, it is relevant, it has a reliable authority, it's accurate, and the purpose is intended for giving you good, valuable information in an unbiased way, then you can use that as a source. So we'll be coming back to this, to these worksheets. I've given you two. One is a PDF, the one that I just opened up, and then there's also a Google document. But you'll be using language from these CRAP tests, the current, relevant, and the rest of the letters for your evaluative part of your annotated works cited document. Okay, so what we're doing this week is we're researching and we're finding information. Now, what I want you to do this week for a grade is I want you to complete this journal. Let's click on it and open it so you can see. The journal says for your 3 solutions that will help meet the UN Global Goal that you have chosen, continue to research to bring in some evidence to show that these are valid, workable, sustainable solutions. Keep the research and the sources you find focused on a global view, not just a local view. I want you to be finding countries around the world where these solutions are being worked on. We're not interested for the purpose of this assignment in looking at what's going on here in North Carolina or the United States. We're looking at this with a global perspective. This is a UN global goal after all, and so keep your focus global. When you have 3 more sources in addition to the first one that I gave you, you're going to list them here in this journal. You won't be able to do the MLA formatting and all of that. I'm going to go over that with you next week, and we'll talk about how to create the document that you're going to turn in for Core Project 3. But right now, you just want to find the sources. And in doing your sources, try as best you can to make your source look like the information that I give you here. So it will start with, it'll start with an author's name if you have an author's name. If you don't, it'll start with the title of the information that you found, the web page. This one is for you to use. This is one that I did for Goal 5 of the UN Global Goals. Yours can look just like this, except of course your goal would be different. This is Goal 5: achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, period, end quotation. UN.org in italics because that is the name of the web page. If you have a date that was updated, you can put the date in after that. The UN website page did not have an updated date, so I did not include that. In MLA format, if you don't have something, you skip it. Then you'll put the URL, which will come from your browser. So if I'm on a particular web page, I just go up to the browser up here and I just click on that, copy that, and that is my URL. And then a period after that, and then the date that you accessed it. And the way we do an MLA format is the 15 comes, the day of the month comes first, then the abbreviated month. This one is October, so it's OCT period, and then the year 2019. So when I did this sample for you, it was 2019. Yours, of course, will say whatever date it is, 2020. And then I have this information here, which is the evaluative part, and it's also a summary of the web source that you're using here. So make yours look like this for each source. You should have 4 sources for this journal. So you already have 1 source. 3 more sources is what you'll need. All right, so let me go back to the works cited page, to the Moodle page for just a second, and there is a something else that I want you to look at beside the Core Project 3 annotated bibliography. You don't need to be worried about that yet. But I'm not scroll down far enough. Let me get to where I need to be. Here we go. There is a slideshow presentation here for you to use too. The Evaluative Annotated Works Cited slideshow right here. View that to see how to create an annotated works cited. And then after that is the document for the Core Project 3 annotated works cited. And then there is the CRAP test to make sure you've got good sources when you're doing your research. If you need help summarizing, there's a document here that you can look at to help you know what to put in a short summary. Evaluating a source, there's a document there that can help you with that, but you can also just go to the those two sources that I gave you for the CRAP test. And then your annotated bibliography for the first source. This reminds you what to do for the global goals page. So mainly what you're doing this week is research, finding sources, finding information that's going to help you with the paper. Your annotated bibliography, your annotated works cited, Core Project 3 will be due next week, July 5th, before midnight. And Core Project 4 will be due July 26th, before midnight. So if you want to work ahead, all the information is here for you. But next week, we'll talk about formatting Core Project 3, and we'll talk about how to get that document. It's going to require MLA format in a certain way, and it's going to require an introduction paragraph for the evaluative annotated works cited. We'll go over all that next week, and then the full document will be due the end of next week. This week, just research and get your sources. Also, before July 26th, I'll be giving you much more instruction on the Core Project 4 for you to work on. This week, do your research and complete that journal. And if you need me for anything, just holler at me and I'll be glad to help. Thanks. See you next time.